I'm not sure how to deliver this particular lunacy to you all except to just do it. A few days ago, I saw a tweet about a transgendered teenager being murdered, set on fire. That was bad enough to read news about that, but the other element was that this apparently was a trend. And I was thinking to myself, what do you mean a trend? There's a trend developing to set gay people on fire? So I went and did some checking on this, and I don't know if it really qualifies as a trend, but I did find other instances in which gay people were being set on fire, and in at least this one case, somebody's dead. It's troubling because I don't see people becoming alarmed by this, and perhaps people should be. The particular incident that, forgive the phrase, sparked this inquiry of mine was about a Detroit teenager. She was born as Henry Hilliard. She was 19. The report initially came from one of the alternative presses, and so I was really kind of skeptical, is this really some kind of trend? And so I began looking first to confirm that this case, and I found some reporting done by the Detroit News and by the Detroit Free Press on this particular incident. And then I began to see the other incidences that had occurred, one of which I had already reported on in my first video. Henry Hilliard also was going by the name of Shelley, or Treasure, and she was reported missing about 1:20 a.m. on October 23rd by a cab driver. She'd been missing for 2 weeks, and on November 8th, this is the Detroit Free Press, did a story about the fact that she was missing, hadn't been seen for since she was reported missing. She was dropped off by a cab. I'll read what was in the article from the Detroit Free Press. Hilliard apparently immediately called the cab driver back, voicing concern about the situation where she had been dropped off. The driver, quote, started to hear her say, "What are you doing?" then scream out loud, "No," and then her phone dropped. A few muffling noises, then the phone went dead. The cab driver drove back to where he let her off, but she was gone. There wasn't anybody else around. And then the Detroit News, a couple days later on November 10th, reported Treasure had been found. Or I should say, her charred torso was found. And then apparently her torso actually was brought into the medical examiner's office on the 23rd of October. She had been reported missing the 23rd, so somebody found her remains that same day, but her body was not identified by her mother until afterwards. And then, so then there was a report about it in the Detroit News on November 10th. So not a lot of urgency in this reporting, apparently. Then we've had some other incidences besides Henry Hilliard that I'd like to share you about. One of them was one that I wrote about, and that was a situation in Texas with Burke Burnett, who, as you recall, was at a party, and then he was assaulted there at the party because he was gay, and besides being stabbed in the face and other areas of his body with a broken beer bottle, he was picked up and thrown into a lit burner barrel where he suffered severe burns. That happened in Reno, Texas, which is northeast of Dallas. Then there was a case also in Scotland. This involved murder as well, in which the horrifically beaten and burned corpse of 28-year-old Stuart Walker was discovered this weekend on the side of a popular intersection in Ayrshire, Scotland. So he had been reported it had been reported that Walker was discovered tied to a lamppost, but the police disputed that. Either way, he'd been beaten and then burned. Whether he was burned while he was alive or the corpse was set on fire afterwards, not entirely clear. Then we've got another situation that happened in Pennsylvania, in which a Stephen Iorio was out drinking with friends, and he passed out, and they decided to pour some rum on him and set him on fire. Yeah, they set him on fire because he was gay. They're his friends? But that is what they told the police. Yeah, we did it because he's gay, according to the police. So what is really interesting about this case, I mean, I don't know, in most places, jurisdictions I've been around, this would be a felonious assault. Could be called felonious assault with intent to commit less than murder, at the very least, which is a serious felony in many states. But these guys were issued an appearance ticket. They weren't put in jail. They weren't arrested and thrown in jail. They were issued an appearance ticket to come to court later and face, I don't know, what charges. You know, if it's an aggravated assault or what. Not quite sure about that. I'll have links to these stories. Plus, I have a link to a Pennsylvania TV station that shows the injuries that Stephen Iorio sustained in his attack, as well as an interview with him. This is lunacy, folks. This is crazy, and the seriousness of this I would like to point out in that you know, burning gay people has a historical context. It goes back to the Spanish Inquisition and the Catholic Church and the Jesuits, and when they burned heretics and witches and other people at the stake, including gay men and lesbians. As you know, or may not know, the word faggot is a term that originated as a word to describe kindling, small bits of wood, fire starter. And in England today, of course, they still refer to cigarettes as faggots, which again, a small stick that you light up. So that connection of that historical context of faggot being used for burning, and that you're burning gay people, whether these perpetrators are fully aware of that connection, it nonetheless exists. And which is why the word faggot is such a reprehensible term. And while gay people have reclaimed the word and use it frequently with each other, it certainly is a word that if you hear anyone else using it, I hope you find it in your heart to say something about how inappropriate that word is, that people shouldn't be using it with a cavalier sense, because it's a word with a history, and it's a word with a very awful history. So that's the lunacy for today. Please visit Libertarian Lunacy, where you will find links to these articles that I am mentioning about. Leave a comment. I'm sorry that this is such a distasteful bit of news to bring you, but there's a lot of lunacy out there, and we need to find some way to bring the sanity back.